So for those of you who do not know me, I'm Neil Jackson and I manage our Connect Partnership Programme. As your booking and dispatch provider, we understand that it's crucial to you and your business that we're leading the way and providing you with the best and latest in cutting edge technology. But we also understand that there are areas of your business where you may need that bit of extra help or a piece of software that we don't specialise in. And that's why we created the Connect programme. We've handpicked a range of partners to work with to provide you with all the products and services you may need to help your business. This means we can concentrate on what we do best and lead the way in the industry. So today I'm delighted to say that we have some of those partners with us. We've brought together experts in payment, insurance, and digital strategy to provide you with advice on how you can ensure you're up to date with the latest news and ensure you're getting your drivers back on the road. So in this first session, I'm going to hand over to Killian Burke from one of our insurance partners, Zego. We did have Countrywide and Patons, but they seem to be having some technical issues and aren't currently able to join, but we'll see if we can get them on once Killian has done his section. So I guess that's it. Over to you, Killian.
Super, thanks Neil, and thanks for having me, guys. So I'm just going to share a screen here so everyone can see what I'm looking at. Give me a shout there, Neil, if you can see.
Yeah.
Super. Well, so first things first, I'm Killian. As Neil mentioned, I'm a partnerships manager in Zego, so I look after all of our partnerships. And just a little bit of context about Zego beforehand. So we started in 2016. We started on the premise of building partnerships across the kind of ride-hailing and delivery segments. Initially, our founders were from Deliveroo originally, and they started the business based on the premise of drivers could not get access to flexible insurance. So there was no way for a driver to pay for the hours that they were on trip with a Deliveroo or an Uber Eats or a Just Eat at the same time as they're driving. And so what we did was we built a model which is based on the shifts that we collect from the work provider. In this case, it would be a Deliveroo, and using those as a way to price the driver. So it was pay by the minute, pay by the hour insurance. And it's essentially a top up hire and reward that sits on top of your policy, your existing SD&P policy. So we started that in 2016, and we quickly moved into the private hire segment, so more around taxi, under the same premise of providing partner-led integration, which enabled us to get access to data to then price the insurance. And we did that via Uber. And then we quickly moved into more of an open market solution where we provide an app telematics device. We acquired a company earlier this year. And the way we do that is by collecting the data on the driver, we then provide them with insurance pricing more tailored to their score or their risk profile. And in that way, incentivize them more to drive in a better way for cheaper insurance. So our kind of like whole ethos has been using data as a premise to provide better context to the driver to provide then cheaper insurance, and then provide value-added services like FNOL and better turnaround on claims. And then in 2019, we moved into fleet. So fleet is under the same premises, our delivery and our taxi, but it's on a fleet level. So we insure the entire fleet of vehicles. And that's also a pay-as-you-go model. So it's basically, and I'll explain a little bit more later, but it's a 20% subscription, and then 80% is based on the mileage that's been done by the fleet. So just a little bit more about us. So we've been around since 2016. We've raised about $250 million at this stage. We are the first insurance company in Europe to obtain a license. So we have our own carrier, but we work with multiple other carriers in the market, depending on the insurance product. We're top 10 in the Global InsurTech 100, and we work across a number of countries at the moment. So our main countries are in the UK and Ireland, and France. And then we also have Netherlands and Spain, and we'll be expanding into Italy and Germany later this year. And just again, reiterating the fact that we're a partner-led business. So we work with a lot of partners in the market, the main one being obviously Autocab in this case. And we're actually building out a lot of solutions with Autocab over the next year, specifically looking at the delivery side of the business. So how do we collect driver data on Autocab drivers to provide them with high reward, flexible insurance, but also and for the past year, Neil and I have been working together on more fleet and individual driver taxi policies. So just a little bit more depth on that. On the driver insurance, when we're talking about individual drivers, we have our hire and reward pay-as-you-go insurance. That's our traditional product, and that is based on car or scooter drivers who deliver food, so goods in transit insurance, and it's based on when they drive for the minutes that they drive, and it's only between those points in time. We then have our 30-day private hire and annual private hire policies, which are based on our app telematics. It's called Sense in our world. It just senses the driving that your drivers are doing, such that we can incentivize them and make their insurance cheaper. And then finally, fleet insurance. And I have another slide that'll explain this a little bit better. But essentially, it's a base plus flex model. So we have a base subscription fee that we collect the data then from hardware telematics with ABAX, who's our partner, to then charge the remaining 80% of the cost. And just really quickly then, so the way it works is that normally your traditional policy would be a set fee per month or per year. And what we've done is we've broken it out. So it's based on the months of the year and use it based on those months. So we bill on a monthly basis, and then your charge or billing at the end of the month is based on how much mileage you've completed or done. We're also building out additional solutions on the kind of F&OL side to ensure that we're more receptive on our claims and response to drivers to get them back on the road sooner. So it's just a really quick whistle stop of Zego. We have a booth as part of the Air platform. So if you'd like to join later around 1 o'clock, myself and one of my colleagues, Jake Baldry, will be there to speak separately about both the driver insurance side and the fleet insurance side of our business. So thank you. Have a lovely day.
That's great. Thank you, Killian.
No problem.
So I think that maybe we've got Darren with us now from Patons Insurance. Darren, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Fantastic.
Hallelujah.
All right. So I'll pass you over to Darren, who's going to tell us about Patons and their services and offerings. Thanks, Darren.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry for the belated arrival, these things, Zoom. I'm going to just quickly briefly run you through a share screen. If people could just confirm quickly. Can everybody see a taxi insurance? Is everybody, can everybody see that?
Yes, Darren.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thanks, Killian. I'm the second guy up on insurance. We're slightly different in so much that Patons are, who are we? The big difference is between the likes of Zego, that Killian represents, is that we are a broker rather than an insurer. And Patons are one of the UK's leading independent brokers for UK taxi insurance services. We've been operating around 20 odd years. We're fiercely independent. I'll go through today just an overview as to what we do, who we are, why we do it, etc., etc. So I'll try and keep things as simple and as basic as possible, and hopefully we can catch up in the booth at the end of the session. But basically, what we do is we provide insurance products for the taxi trade. If it's got wheels and it's a taxi, we want to insure it. We do single vehicles, we do multiple vehicles, we do fleets, we do electric vehicles, saloons, hackney, black cabs, minibuses. We even in the past have insured tuk-tuks, and I think this was an infamous one. We were the guys who insured the plated Lamborghini. So where are we? We're unlike most brokers in our space who have one call centre or one regional office. We have offices across the UK. We're in Dundee, we're in Edinburgh, we're in Glasgow. So there are 3 Scottish offices. Over the last 5-10 years, we've grown our representation into England, starting off in Liverpool, where I'm based, Manchester, and our most recent office, which opened up in Middlesbrough, which will be the start of our expansion into the northeast of England. So why choose Patons? Fantastic service. Everybody will say they've got fantastic service. But if I say that the vast majority of our new business comes by way of recommend or referral, that for me is the surest sign that we're doing something right. Generally speaking, you guys, if you've got car insurance, the general stats are that if your car insurance, as a car insurance customer, about 40% of you will stay with the company you're with. The other 60% will jump around from year to year. Our business, generally over 85% of our customers stay with us year on year. So that backs up what we're saying there in the service. The broker side of it means that we have a great choice of different insurers and different products dependent on individual risks or individual fleet risks. So we're not a one-stop shop with one insurer. We have a good dozen or so, albeit the vast majority of our business is written with 5 or 6 key partners. Local knowledge. The reason why we have regional offices is because one of the value adds we bring as a broker to our insurers and to our customers is that we like to think we know our regions better than anybody else. Of course, we can't do that throughout the whole of the UK without having an office in every town or city, but that's where operators, private hire operators and base operators in their regions really come into play. And what we do is we work with established operators within regions of the country and use their local knowledge to help us select the right kind of drivers and provide products and great prices for them. One of the biggest things for us throughout this as we've grown was keeping it personal. So as we've grown over the last 10, 15 years, that's been key to all other things above. Personal approach, not call centres, first name terms. On the back of that, however, over the last 2-3 years, and it's been critical this last 12, we've made sure that we trade contactlessly via our website, via our mobile phone app. So there's no physical need to post or fax or whatever documents if we use that service that we offer. Finally, come and speak to us in our booth at the end of it, because we'd like to talk to you about the Civil Liability Act, which is due to come in on the 31st of May 2021. That's more commonly known as the Whiplash Reform. So come and speak to us about what that means for your business and your drivers. If you want to talk to us about our referral and expansion program, where we can either work with you in your region to develop our business and your business, come talk to us. Or indeed, of course, any of your insurance related needs, come along and we'll have a chat about your specific requirements.
I'm joined this morning by James from Curtis Gabriel, who's going to talk to us about how companies need to have a good strategy in place to keep their passengers fully informed, recruit drivers, and capitalise on the opportunities as lockdown restrictions continue to lift. Okay, so over to you, James, take it away.
Okay, hello everybody. My name's James Deville. I'm the sales manager, UK sales manager for Curtis Gabriel. Obviously, we're a social media and digital design agency that specialise in the private hire, taxi and ground transportation industry. So I'll just give you a little bit of an opening kind of remit on where we are and obviously what we've learned over the last kind of 12 months. Obviously 2020 and 2021 has been a time that I don't think anybody's going to forget in our industry. For private hire, taxi and ground transportation companies, it has been a time to adapt, collaborate, support, engage with drivers, passengers and communities. But more importantly, keeping their businesses to survive. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020 and lockdown was activated, Curtis Gabriel immediately identified there was going to be a time for revised strategies, especially through social media, digital marketing activity. So we took a careful consideration of everything that had happened and came up with a number of strategies to help our private hire clients and taxi clients, which we have in excess of nearly 150, to help support them, through the difficult time of the pandemic. So through the pandemic, social media and other online platforms have become a key tool for communicating with your customers and drivers. Also a key tool at some of the darkest times of spreading a lot of positivity. So through social media and marketing techniques, CG were able to provide a number of ways using these tools to help our private hire companies, taxi companies, chauffeur, executive fleets, and utilising organic activity through the social media feeds, communicating with their customers and drivers. Although there didn't seem to be any activity. effective reputation management. So, again, communicating with passengers, to let them know that there's still services available and so on and so forth. Showcasing a lot of charity activity that a lot of you guys were doing through the pandemic. You were supporting local community to let them know that you were still there. And also showcasing the support that, I would say, the ground transportation industry showed for the NHS key workers and care workers. So look, we learned a lot through that. So I'm going to share a slide with you now to kind of look at the findings and obviously how, using social media and digital marketing, we can move forward. So just sharing this slide, 1 second. Okay, so driving forward with digital. So I'll just start running through this with you. So driving forward with digital, what we've learned from lockdown. Lockdown saw a mass turn to digital and technology. We adapted to a new normal, which sees remote working, home learning, and everyday consumer behavior all taking place online. Social media and other online platforms became a key tool for communicating with customers and spreading much needed positivity during a difficult time. So I've taken a case study from one of our clients from 2019 to 2020, and then from 2020 to 2021 through a 12-month period. What we saw with our clients is the activity was increased by 50% on social media and digital. So for example, and again, I can give you more breakdown on this when you come to our booth and we'll talk about what these statistics mean. But from 2019, there was a 51% uplift in engagements. There was a 51% uplift in impressions, 56% uplift in link clicks, and a 52% uplift in growth. So this goes to show, and this means that the passengers, the communities, the businesses that were working with this particular company, which we used for the case study, increased their activity to communicate with them on a 50%, which is massive, considering that amount of growth within a 12-month period. So basically, what does this mean? How do we move forward? So a number of areas that we've identified that are massively benefiting our current client base. Firstly is driver recruitment, and I will share another slide after this slide which shows some case studies on driver recruitment. We've been running multiple driver recruitment campaigns for a lot of our fleets. Funnily enough, businesses are struggling to get drivers back. So what we've done at CG, we have some specialist strategies that we use via social media, via Facebook, effective driver recruitment campaigns to target the right type of drivers that the fleets are looking for. We have much success with this, and I'll share some statistics with you on the final slide with regards to obviously how successful a Facebook driver recruitment campaign can be. So I'll come back to that one. The next thing is app downloads. So, we want, with obviously this big shift to digital, we're seeing huge interactions now with, people using apps to book their vehicles. Again, this comes down to a number of things. People want on-demand, contactless, the ability to pay by card, ease of use. But again, it's also a very good way of targeting other businesses because, they may not have app technology to book their vehicles, book their taxis, and so on and so forth, tracking of the vehicle, and so on and so forth. So we've been running specific app download campaigns for a lot of our clients as well. Obviously, this is generating not just getting their existing customer bases to start using their passenger app to improve automation, but also targeting new clients, to bring into the business to use those services. And then another key point that we've been using social media for, and this is, any private hire taxi business, chauffeur business needs to be doing this. We're not just trying to deal with things on a national level and a regional level. We need to deal with our community and our passengers and our drivers and anyone that uses your business on a local level. So community is a big way of getting people to engage with you. And I touched on this a little bit before. So using social media, using Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn for more stakeholder B2B stuff. Let people know what you're doing, let you know what they're doing for the community, that whether you're running, again, we'll talk about charity work, supporting your local football team, whatever it may be. People engage with that, and if you do not tell them about it, they won't know. And again, it has such a big impact on your business by letting the local community know what you're doing. So again, these are things that we use social media for to promote the business. So look, I mean, what I'd like you to do is come talk to us at our booth. Myself and Levi are there. We can go into a lot more detail on how we can identify the areas of your business that you need to improve in, whether that's driver recruitment, whether that's app downloads for more automation, or whether that's community engagement, or whether it's a mix of all three. So we'll be there to discuss that. So the one final slide I did want to share with you quickly, because I think this is relevant to a lot of our clients at this moment in time. I just want to show you our driver recruitment deck. And this just gives you a few examples of what we've done. And again, if you need drivers, come to us. So there's just a number of case studies here. I'm not going to go into massive detail on it. I'm not going to give you death by PowerPoint, but so Brunel Cars, we were working with these guys back in 2019. The main objective was to recruit new drivers for their busy London fleet. So what we did, we created lead generation forms on social media, utilizing the best profile for the drivers that Brunel currently had. We were then able to generate what we call a lookalike campaign from the data they provided us. And then obviously we were able to use Facebook and social media to target their best fit drivers. We generated over 650 driver leads within the first 3 months, and they had a fantastic conversion rate of 19.9%. So, just where that's 100 without working out in my head, about over 150 drivers. Again, and this is just the stats, we ended up with 353,000 impressions, 8,996 engagements, and which accumulated in 658 driver leads. So this is how powerful the driver recruitment techniques can be through social media. Again, this is Yellow Cab in Silicon Valley. We're based in the US as well. Again, this is slightly different. The main aim for Yellow Cabs was to recruit new drivers to provide work for their NEMT contracts. Again, it could be PTS contracts, whatever. So again, we created lead generation forms provided by the information that was Yellow Cabs gave us. We were able then to create lookalike campaigns, and again, the results. Within the first week, they had 3 drivers. And throughout the campaign, they generated 148 driver leads, and that campaign would have run for 4 weeks. So not as long as Brunel, but again, very, 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 very good results. If you can onboard 3 drivers a week, I mean, you'll all be really happy. Do you know what I mean? So again, just how powerful driver recruitment campaigns can be. And then somebody more closer to home, Argyle Satellite Taxis, we ran a campaign for them. We recruited 35 new drivers, resulting in £170,000 of additional income over 12 months. And again, we ran lead generation campaigns targeting their best fit drivers, which they were looking for. Again, and this was all done through Facebook. Outcome was, as we said, 35 new drivers. They had 211 driver leads and 35 new drivers. So I just wanted to share those few slides with you. Just obviously, it's not something that we have just come up with. There's proper raw stats behind this, there's proper case studies behind this, and currently we're running 15 driver recruitment campaigns for our current base. So look, come and join us on the Curtis Gabriel stand. We'd love to help you guys, whether it's driver recruitment, app downloads, whether it's community engagement. It's a very, everybody needs to be using digital and social now. So yeah, we'll be there, myself and Levi. Thank you.
Welcome to the final session. This is our payment panel section. So over the last 12 months, things have been extremely difficult for our industry. And we've seen huge changes in payments and how the entire payment industry operates. For example, cashless payments have become more prominent, far more quickly, and there have been plenty of changes to come, like the new 3D Secure that is due in Q3 of this year. So with that in mind, we brought together a panel of payment experts within the industry, and they're going to answer some questions and give us their opinions on what's happened, what's changed, and what does the future hold for industry and payments. So I'd like to welcome today Joe from JudoPay, Paul from Opayo, Lee from LynkPay, Richard from SMS Mobile Pay, and definitely not least, but finally, Malcolm from CabCard. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It's great to have you with us. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive straight into it. For you guys that are watching, if you've got any questions, there is a Q&A section where you can throw your questions in. And if we have time at the end, we'll pick a few of those questions and put them to the panel and see what they've got to say. Okay, so I guess I'll start with the first question. And I'm going to pick on Joe from JudoPay. So, afternoon, Joe. Question for you is, how do you think COVID-19 lockdown has affected payments as a whole and specifically the taxi industry?
Yeah, afternoon, everybody. So, I mean, 2020, let's be honest, it's changed the industry forever. Not only just the payments industry, but all industries. Cash is no longer king. And COVID-19 has really accelerated a change that was expected to take several years, really. I mean, in the response to the need to reduce face-to-face commerce and limit contact with payment devices due to restrictions and guidelines that were put in place to deter the spread of COVID-19, consumers have adjusted their payment preferences. And as a result, we've seen a growth of contactless payments around the world with expanded user cases. And they're just going to continue to grow, really, and find even more market traction and continued innovation as well. It will really push that innovation piece across the payments industry, but also the taxi industry as well. As we all know, contactless payments have been around for over a decade, and while the technology may have already been commonplace in countries such as the UK and Australia, the pandemic has broken that inertia that was long associated with doing business, mostly in the physical world. And even though there's a shift towards these new payment methods was already underway, this rapid rate of change has caused that consumer and retailer behavior to kind of leapfrog years worth of change in the space of just a few months. I mean, you only have to look at Germany as an example, where cash has always been king. More payments were made by card than cash for the first time in 2020. In fact, the use of cash has dropped in the country by 60%. It's similar in the US. Most payments have up until now been authenticated by signatures. However, contactless payments are becoming increasingly popular for consumers. But it's not only, these are just two examples, two very small examples. Reports have been found that there's an increasing appetite for contactless and digital wallets, which covers obviously Google Pay and Apple Pay since the start of the pandemic, with 61% now finding it easier to pay using contactless, with this percentage obviously rising amongst younger generations who are more familiar with technology.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Joe. So second question, I'm going to go with Lee and Richard on this. Would you actively advise customers to remain cashless? Is that what they should be looking at in the future?
Yeah, I would certainly advise to digital cashless offering from the fleets to obviously their consumer base and also to their drivers. Obviously, it's been magnified. Digital payments have been magnified now versus cash. And there's a lot of obviously key areas where we'll be looking at, like obviously it's COVID safe. So if you're looking at digital payments, completely COVID safe, there's less risk instead of dealing with cash. There is still studies going on about obviously transmission of the virus with cash at the minute, and obviously Bank of England's leading in that too as well. The study on the transmission of the virus, but moving away from that, if we look at the core benefits of obviously going purely digital, it'll allow the fleet to be more increased in automation. There's innovation in payment services. There's a lower security risk to the operators. The integration of the apps on device, the speed of service as well. So digital is a lot quicker than dealing with cash, and that's speed of service for the customer, but it's also a speed of service for the drivers inside the fleets. There's a lot less fraud dealing with digital compared to cash. The other big advantages would be the multi-platform digital services, which are going to be on offer. Possibly auto currency adoption as well, which will be a big one for big cities trying to pull back tourists. So whenever tourists do start coming back, the multi-currency stuff within the digital platforms will be pretty good. And for the operator side, the automation for the account side as well. So instead of dealing with cash inside the fleets, and it's purely digital in, the speed of automation for the accounts teams to pay their drivers out and pull in the liquid capital too as well. It's going to be a lot quicker. And it's real-time data. They can utilize that real-time data from the banks.
Excellent. Anything to add, Richard?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Richard from the CEO and founder of M2M Data Connect Group. And SMS Mobile Pay is one of our global brands. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with a lot what Lee said there. I would certainly encourage operators to embrace digital payments because the demand for it is only going to increase in the future. Right. Obviously, with security as well, which is key for mobile payments. The delivery of the message is key, and obviously having the correct partner to process the payments is key as well. I'm not sure whether the taxi industry can go fully digital with the payments because of just the type of industry that it naturally works in, but I would certainly encourage them to do so. It would just, I mean, the main benefit is just automation. It's using the staffing resources to train them up with other areas of the business where they can focus on. If you can have all your payments covered and your driver rents covered through automation, that saves a massive amount of time, and that is key, really. It's staffing costs, holiday costs, all these tasks are taken away, and it's literally a job taken away from them, and freeing up extra time for more important priorities that companies have.
Right. Okay. So that's an interesting point you brought up there, Richard. So it's not just about cash and digital payments. It's also about the automation and how it can help reduce the overheads for the fleets and be able to utilise the staff that they've got and repurpose them into doing other things like
exactly. Well, I'll give you an example. One customer recently spoke to, it was taking them 36 hours a week across 2 people to collect the driver rents.
Right. Okay.
Where collecting the driver rents through SMS would literally it's a job out of the way. It's 36 hours a week that they can save.
The time is critical, obviously, for the fleets. Like Richard was saying, there is a lot of there's lots of products out there to help the operators lift their driver settles inside, and obviously take the consumer payments as well. It's just really getting that picture, getting that message to the operators to show them the value of that time. There is a lot of operators actually they can't judge, or they can't actually show the value, but with the technology, hopefully we will just show them that saving of time.
And also to add as well, because it is new technology, there'll be hesitancy from the operators to embrace it. It's your parents, for example, they're scared to death of using an iPhone. It's natural for us. To simplify it, you look at your parents sending a message, and this is, no disrespect to anybody, but this is a natural process. It's just how humans are. They're hesitant with changes, with new technologies, with adapting new practices, and it's just a fear, really, which can be overcome.
Right. Okay. Great. Okay. Thanks, guys. Anybody else got anything they'd like to add? Anything they'd like to chip in with? No. Okay. Great. So we'll move on. So I'm gonna throw one at Malcolm. We'll throw one at Malcolm now. Get Malcolm on. So Mal, do you think that this is going to be a permanent change for the taxi industry becoming cashless? Is this something that we're just going to see that's going to continue to grow, and that it's going to be a permanent fixture now?
Yep, absolutely, Neil. It's 100% a permanent fixture, and it's a growing permanency. I think probably what we've all encountered, as the other speakers have already mentioned, we've seen things go at a great speed during the COVID period, and I think we've seen habit change. We've seen people's habits have changed, not only within the way they spend their money within the taxi sector, but within other sectors as well. And of course, that's been encouraged. It's been encouraged by retailers. It's been encouraged by the government, and encouraged by even the likes of the FCA, who have increased contactless spend up from 45, or will soon go from 45 up to 100 £100. I think also we just got a situation whereby not only that habit, and I think some of the guys have just mentioned there about moves with regards to iPhones and so on as mentioned, but I think that we've got people's lives now, they spend their lives, or their life is on the smartphone.
Yeah.
And that smartphone becomes, that's extended to all sorts of other devices, wearable devices, watches, rings, these sort of things. So I think what we're seeing is it's just the market is dictating what is happening, and I think that as we all know in business, whether we're in the payment side or whether we're in the taxi operational side, it's that market trend. We've got to meet the market demand. So it's here, and it's not going away, Neil.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark.
I think.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to add into that, kind of completely agreeing there with what Malcolm was saying. Kind of traditional ways of doing things are dramatically changing. Kind of we already touched on briefly that younger generation they've grown up around technology. Yeah. Kind of they're no longer the younger generation, as sad as I am to say. And I'm sure kind of the guys on the call would agree with me. Kind of banking nowadays. Kind of we live in that cashless society. Kind of the millennial consumers, they've grown up with it, around with them. They're used to having kind of cash from an ATM. What is that? They're used to kind of doing their banking on their phones, doing all sorts of things there. And I mean, to go one step further, then there has actually been surveys done by Visa in terms of kind of the back to work kind of studies, where they've kind of looked at it, and 78% of global consumers now have changed the way that they pay due to the pandemic. And once you've kind of shifted that change and that choice and that mindset in people, it is very hard for that to switch back. People will become used to paying contactlessly, and they'll want to continue with that method.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Thanks for chipping in. Okay, so next question then. So obviously we're sure that the digital revolution's here. It's here to stay. So for our operators, for the fleets, for the customers, what kind of preparations or systems should they have in place to accommodate a surge in largely cashless payments? Maybe Paul, maybe I can throw that one at you.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Good afternoon, all. Look, I think in terms of everything that you've heard so far is around a massive transformation that we've seen in a very short period of time. We have passengers now who want to pay in a particular way, and we maybe sometimes have businesses or taxi firms who maybe aren't in a position to accept those payment methods. So I think in terms of setting up the right preparation, it's about having the right payment partners to be able to facilitate. And there's lots of considerations you should take into account when selecting those different payment partners. It's around provision of the right payment methods. You'll get different settlement times. You might get different customer service levels as well. I mean, anecdotally, we hear stories around particular drivers who might be carrying 3 different devices from 3 different payments organizations, and they may have 3 different levels of customer support. They may have 3 different payout times. So from that point of view, it just doesn't make sense. So to have 1-2 clear payment partners who might be able to support, who will provide the right back-end reporting as well, because what's happening is that we may be taking a contactless payment. There's still going to be cash. So while we're seeing cash levels dwindle, cash is not going to go away. I mean, the barriers to entry to bank account remain the same. So in particular demographics, we're always going to see that there will be cash usage. So it's the total reconciliation of the back end of alternative payment methods, whatever they might be, LynkPay, things like that, your traditional card payments, debit and credit cards, and then cash as well. So it's all around ensuring that businesses and taxi firms are set up to provide the payment methods that passengers will want. That's what I would say.
Okay, great. Anybody got anything to add? No? Okay, no problem. All right, so I'm gonna throw a question out there for everybody, really, that I'm pretty sure most of our customers will be interested in. So how do taxi companies ensure that their payments are secure? Who'd like to go first? Am I going to pick on somebody?
I'll take a really quick stab if you want, Neil. I think I got it likely so far. The other guys got lots of speaking. They were really taking responsibility. Look, I think in terms of some of we probably get onto 3D Secure as we move on through this, but I think the liability shift that comes with the likes of 3D Secure is really important. So that's going to ensure that payments are more secure, utilizing chip and PIN. If we look at the traditional way of taking a card payment, particularly in the taxi industry, a lot of it was over the phone, taking a payment or taking a card payment from somebody over the phone. So using a secure virtual terminal or using the new technologies like Pay by Link. So being able to send out a link direct to a customer to allow them to pay securely. I think taking those sort of actions will certainly make the advancement in terms of and this managing the surge in digital payments a lot more secure.
Okay, so you mentioned there, Paul, that like traditionally digital payments were taken over the phone. Are we seeing more of a shift now that that's becoming less likely? That the payments are now used like with payment terminals in cars, through apps, through other ways of paying, rather than it always being over the phone. Are we seeing a shift at all, do you think?
We are, absolutely. We have lots of sales teams and account managers who work with businesses of all different shapes and sizes, including taxi organizations, and there's a huge requirement for integrated payments. There's a big requirement as well for those pay-by-link type solutions. So this is something that, again, it's thinking about a payment from the passenger point of view and the customer point of view. It's not just thinking about what payment methods do we want to have. Does it suit a business to take phone payments? Yes. But is a customer very comfortable taking a payment or making a payment through a link? Absolutely. And as Joe and many of the others have already mentioned, we're seeing that this is a kind of a shift in mindset and technology that is not going to go away. And I know some of the stats were mentioned earlier around the number of cashless individuals. And the definition of somebody who is cashless is that they do one payment per month. That's cash. Everything else is digital. And you've got about 7.4 million what we call cashless individuals in the UK. So from that point of view, businesses are now looking for the right features, functionality to be able to deal with that cashless and growing cashless society.
Okay, great. All right, so you mentioned just then previously about 3D Secure. So I'm going to ask you guys, all you guys, what's your take on it? What does it mean for the taxi industry, and how are things going to change with the new 3D Secure update? Maybe you can share some information with the guys of what's coming.
I mean, I'm happy to chip in here if you want to start with to get things rolling. So, I mean, obviously, with 3D Secure at the moment, obviously, we all know how unuser-friendly 3D Secure version 1 was, with your pinch and zooming, it wasn't rendering itself on mobile devices and all this kind of stuff. And the importance now of this new update that is coming in 3D Secure 2 is hopefully going to develop and move the payments way forward in terms of what it's looking to introduce is obviously it's going to provide different options for way of authentication. So it's looking to introduce new authentication methods such as biometrics that better protect today's consumers. It's also going to provide the possibility of kind of a fully frictionless payment flow. So what I mean by that is going to use more comprehensive data sets to authenticate customers without the need for them having to intervene, essentially. So it's going to recognize, is this someone's device that we are used to seeing, and things like this. So rather than the customer having to do something or having to remember some kind of password, you might find that most people actually don't even have to enter anything, because we're almost passing through things such as, yes, this device is a trusted device, and so it's not having to go through. And from data that we've seen, because obviously with the EU, they've had to adopt this far sooner than us, there's already been a huge reduction in cart abandonment, kind of by almost up to 70%, which obviously has led to a huge dramatic change and increase in the conversion of these transactions.
Okay, great. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for the insight. Anybody got anything to add? Come on, guys, don't be shy.
I think maybe Neil, if I could step in there on the back of what Joe has said. I mean, clearly the 3D secure aspect is very much geared towards the online payments activity. Mm-hmm. I think that also, operators have got available to them the ability to not necessarily as an alternative. There are options around, but they can, of course, opt to have those payments taken within the vehicle. Clearly, that's an area where we specialize in. But the ability for a passenger, and back to I think what was said earlier on, I think Paul talked about passenger convenience, or certainly alluded towards that. I think that ability for the passenger to use his or her smartphone, to use contactless card, whatever it may be. I'm sort of angling there that from the security aspect, you've still got the same safety net in terms of a contactless payment or a chip and pin payment as you would have with the online 3D secure. So I think that 3D secure very much is angled towards the it is clearly angled towards the online activity.
Okay. All right. So final question I've got for you guys, and then we'll maybe do a few from. I see we've had a few pop up in the Q&A. So in general, what's the future for the payment industry? Is there anything coming other than the 3D secure? What can we expect? Are we seeing that it's consumer driven now, rather than businesses saying you can pay only this way? Should businesses be looking at having all methods of payment? Is that what we're looking at now?
I think obviously the operators need to offer choice to the customers and have a wide range of choice through all digital services. And obviously one of the newer technologies is open banking technology, which is obviously putting control back in the customer hands. So the open banking protocol has payment initiation services. So there's actually no cards required. There's no customer details required. It's all pulled on APIs. Messages are sent through text or in-app. And then obviously it's done on the customers on mobile, so they don't have to actually initiate any card details, and they don't have to initiate any banking details. It's all pushed inside the banking app, the banking safety net, and the payments initiated through there. So yet again, there's no cash, there's no cards, it's completely safe. The security level is very, very, very high on it also, because you're not putting in card details. And that is a new technology, and obviously it's grown too as well. At the minute, the open banking stats is about 86% of adult population have a banking app on their mobile phone. There's about 2.5 million people actively using open banking at the moment through their mobile telephone. So that is technology which will grow year on year.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lee.
I think maybe jumping in again, Neil, on the back of what Lee has said, and yeah, absolutely agree that the payments initiation is something that is there and is moving forward to some extent, perhaps in the background, but it is going to be a big part of everybody's mode of operation, particularly from the consumer side. I think also what we're seeing is a move towards in our area where we've been reliant in the past upon hardware devices within vehicles. We're seeing that move now towards what's called soft POS, where we've got tap to phone technology, and so that in itself again reduces costs from an operator or from a driver's perspective, so that in actual fact the the driver's PDA or smartphone starts to double up and becomes the card payment terminal. So I think as time progresses on, in the same way as Lee has talked about open banking technology, I think you're going to see changes that probably is being driven by the likes of Visa and MasterCard within the card payment sector, that is pushing, it's pushing that micro merchant, and to some extent, we could argue that the licensed taxi driver is in that category of the micro merchant. So we're going to see more and more of that, and that's all about displacing cash as well. So that's the big boys going after those very small transactions that would have historically been a cash payment.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. So I think we'll just fire in. We've got a few minutes, so I think we can afford to fire in a couple of questions that have been put in the chat. I'm going to go with one from Mo first. So, in your opinion, how would you suggest operators promote new ways of paying in, and in your experience, what is the most effective way? ROI is key post-pandemic. So what's the best way of advertising the options, do you think? Have you guys got any experience with that? What's the...
If I could start, the most effective way is through SMS marketing, because you can contact your base instantly. The stats for SMS marketing is almost, you're talking 95% open rate within a couple of minutes, compared to email marketing where it's around about 20%. It's really effective. We've done bulk campaigns for our customers for app downloads, and the results have been really good. For the cost of an SMS, it's an investment.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Rich. Anybody else?
Yet again, they can use their social feeds, their social media feeds. So Richard's right, using the SMS platforms. It's a much better platform to obviously engage with pushing out a new message with clients. But yet again, the operators, if they can use they spend years building their social media feeds, so utilizing that social media feed for new technology, and that's also for their consumers, but it's also for their driver. So it's educating the drivers as well with new technology. I think coming from educating the drivers with it then will help also educate their customer platform as well. It has to come from the drivers to educate the customers, because there could be a block there, and obviously you want the drivers to promote the new technologies.
Okay, Lee. Yeah. Obviously, make use of word of mouth of your fleet. Okay, so got another question. I think this should be for Joe and maybe Paul as well. So customer not present payments. So when customers are taking payments over the phone on a regular basis, chargebacks are an issue. Are there any plans to combat this, or anything that can be done to help reduce the number of chargebacks that are done on customer not present?
Well, I think sorry, Joe, I don't know. I was just going to mention the pay by link element that I spoke about earlier. I mean, by issuing a pay by link, you've got a secure payment, and it's certainly going to help in terms of shifting liability, making things more secure. So I think to transition away from that traditional over the phone payment, and it's really, as we just discussed on the previous question, it's around promotion of those alternative channels. So alternative ways of taking payments to really try and steer away from that traditional method. I think that's probably the simple advice. Joe, sorry, I cut you off. I'll let you jump in there now.
No, not at all. I was going to say exactly the similar things along to the route as you were saying, in terms of pay by link is absolutely massive, but not only that, now in terms of pay by link has almost evolved as well throughout the years, in terms of it's no longer just kind of a link that is sent via an email. It's kind of being able to send that via SMS. Richard was already alluding to the powers of being able to send via text message. And so that is kind of the key thing. It's that shift to making a transaction secure. And we touched on that 3D Secure side of things as well, with the introduction of 3D Secure 2, which kind of will help lead towards more of a better customer experience and more of a frictionless experience, you're going to find that that is the best way to do it, to make a transaction secure and reduce that kind of, it's that liability shift essentially, which will reduce the chargeback exposure.
Okay. All right, and then I've got one final one from John. So when fleets do adopt like digital payments, card payments, and all the rest of it, and they increase their card payment facilities, one of the concerns is high processing costs. Is there anything on the horizon where you can see card providers or anybody reducing their processing fees? Can you see that coming down as usage increases?
Should I jump in, Neil?
Yeah, sure. If you want that, yeah.
It's a hot topic. I think the reality is that from a payment processing side of things, you know, it is, we're all in the world of volume business, and we're all I guess if we're fortunate enough to make a small snippet out of each individual transaction. And to some extent, I think those of us in that payments business, it's almost a race to the bottom. You know, that it's potentially a race to who can be the cheapest, and so therefore we all rely upon added value and other things that we can bring to the party. I think that one of the aspects that you know, a fleet may consider, and that is that instead of them acting as the sort of merchant of record and being the party that receives those monies and therefore the party that pays those processing fees, there are other options available whereby, and okay, you know, I don't want to sound as though we're sort of self-promotion, but I think there are aspects whereby a driver can be paid directly. And if a driver is paid directly, then the fleet has got an option to either cover those fees if they so wish, and the driver receives his full fare, or indeed the driver picks up those individual processing fees. But I think to answer the question, personally, the other members of the panel will have a view. I don't see those rates reducing at all. And in fact, looking latterly at people like MasterCard and the changes within, you know, following Brexit, if anything, we may see a slight increase in those charges.
I think to add to that, what kind of Malcolm was saying, kind of, I do agree in terms of in some aspects it is a race to the bottom, but then also I think, as kind of Paul and I were touching on earlier, with the innovation that's happened within the industry and some of the new payment methods that are coming in, open banking is very much seen as the next thing. It's been a topic of conversation for the last couple of years now. And whilst Visa and MasterCard are obviously taking their share of things, and that's almost the largest chunk of money that there is going, as the kind of innovation continues and open banking comes to the forefront, that's almost taking out those card schemes involved. And so you're almost taking out a chunk of it. So it becomes a bit less a race to the bottom, but also then helps to drive down processing fees potentially.
Okay, great. All right, I think that's it for today. We're out of time. So that we're going to end it there. So thanks, guys. Thanks for taking the time for joining us today. I hope everybody else found that as interesting and as informative as I have. As I've mentioned throughout today's webinar, all our partners from today are available for you to talk to, so please do take the time to visit them at their booths. We're going to keep the webinar running for a good 30 minutes to give you a chance to have a chat. Don't worry if you don't get the opportunity to speak to everybody. You can visit them all on our Connect website, autocabconnect.com. You can just visit their page, fill out the contact us form, or there is the ability to leave a message on here today, and somebody will get back in touch with you. So once again, thank you all to our Connect partners. It's great to have you with us. That's all for now. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you on the next one.